Stephanie.
Emily.
And today we are doing a book review on All Grown Up by Jamie Eisenberg. It was my book of the month a few months ago, and we're here to talk about this today.
Yep. So I actually got a good fresh read of it, and from my point of view, the story is about, I guess, sort of array of stories from this main character's life. Her name is Andrea, and it basically spans for her entire time in New York, from when she was early 20s, when she gave up being an artist, to her journey now into her 40s. So it's really a weird, I think a unique sort of take on coming of age stories, because usually coming of age stories span from when you're 10 to when you're 18, right? When you're actually going from adolescence to suppose young adulthood. But this is one of those, I guess, different trajectories where things are coming from 20s, how we are, to when we get much older.
And I feel like this is more of a coming of age for someone who's figuring out adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just because you think that when you're young, adulthood means one thing, but as you become, your 20s or 30s or whatever, you realize that it's actually comprises of a lot of different things, and you see how she kind of struggles along with that, especially living in New York. And New York it's a world of its own.
Yeah, we both know. So yeah, I would say that my main feeling of this book was that I really liked the fact that it allowed that message of the fact that you don't really stop growing up, even though people call you a grown-up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's often really forgotten among all of us. We sometimes even can peer pressure each other into thinking well, why can't you have just figured that out already?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't actually looking at her when I was saying that.
I was looking at her when I said that.
But I feel like we both have our issues, but our strengths and weaknesses on certain things, and so does everyone else in this city and anywhere else who are among this age group. And even as you go into your 30s and your 40s, I can definitely think now as participating in this whole adulthood adventure, how now my lens towards my parents, towards my grandparents has really changed. When they were telling me when I was younger that when you grow up you'll finally
you understand.
No. Yeah, I was no I wouldn't. Of course I wouldn't. And then now I'm growing up, I'm oh, okay, kind of get it.
I kind of
get it, but I also feel that it's okay to be your age too. So there's a sort of balance, which is also really well explored in this story, of when you're 20s, you definitely do certain things because you don't know any better, and it's okay to not know better too. You're going to have to make mistakes. There's no way to avoid it. But yeah, in general, I think the character Andrea was pretty well rounded. Of course, there are certain areas that got a little depressing coming from me, but I feel like she was definitely the type to overanalyze things, which I understand because I'm like that. And but then she also has this weird independent streak that kind of eclipsed everyone else around her, because she didn't end up getting married. She really I guess in her definition, everyone thinks it stunted her growth, but for her, I think it kind of transcended it at the end. But it's up to you. What do you think?
Well, I actually struggled with this book a lot. I don't know about you. This was I know I picked this, but it was so not my book.
Okay.
I struggled with, because the way how the story is laid out as well is kind of short stories, and they're kind of scattered in terms of her timeline. So sometimes the story will be back when she's a teenager, and then it'll jump into when she's 40, and then it'll jump back when she's 20, and then it's back and forth. So sometimes it took me some time to be okay, let me figure out where she is in her life. And kind of understand, because sometimes you obviously need to understand the age group before you really fully understand what she's talking about. So that, first of all, it was difficult for me to understand. And second of all, I hated her. She was I don't like her. You liked her? I don't like her.
I think I've reiterated this before in videos. I don't need to like a character in order to really appreciate the overall, I guess, purpose of them being there. Because the thing is that, I'm sure from a third POV, most of if you were to look at me from every single day of my life, you wouldn't like me either. Because people, I personally believe that everyone has their moments, right? And she's just writing down the most vulnerable ones. So she's not supposed to be.
That's the thing. I feel like she wasn't supposed to be likable. Yeah. But that's because I just didn't like her character, just because I feel like she was very selfish. You know, she was always, I felt she was so ungrateful, especially with her sister-in-law. And her brother, who clearly needed a lot of help, like financially, emotionally, mentally, etc. That her mom actually went up, you know, state, or I forget where they moved, upstate or Connecticut or something like that, to actually help them. But for her, she was like, well, you never said you needed me. And I was just like, yeah, but you kind of have to understand that you already know they're struggling. You know, like, how do you not process in your mind that, oh, maybe they need my help? And like, it wasn't whether or not she didn't help them, it was the fact that she didn't even go visit them. She like rarely went upstate to visit them.
Okay. So when I was reading this book, I kind of took that arc as more of like a reflection, of course, of her character, but I think she struggled with something a little bit even harder, because she was imagining how like her brother and Greta were supposed to be this perfect couple in her life, and that was the sort of first impression she had, and she didn't really want to stray from that I guess legacy of hers. Like, she made up this narrative that, like, that was my opinion, of course, of like how she took on these situations. She was like, they're supposed to be the perfect couple. Like, we often not do that to other people. They're like, oh yeah, like to celebrities even, right? Like, it's like Brad and Angelina was supposed to be the perfect couple. Nothing wrong was supposed to happen to them. So when something really wrong happened to her brother and to Greta, she sort of just wanted to avoid it as much as possible. And I personally don't really understand how, like, someone would respond like that, but I can definitely see it happening, because like it's something that people do, but I personally would not. I don't feel like I would. I just have, like, from situations that may or may not be similar, like, I just didn't do that. But for her as a person, I think I could see it, so that's why I respected it.
So like, I think this book also was difficult to read because it showed a really like unapologetic way of human nature. You know, so it doesn't gloss over, you know, humans as, like, you know, their true selves, but it really goes into like the negative side, you know, not really the negative side, but like reality. So you see her struggles, and in a way I kind of understand that, because I'm like, okay, yes, I understand, you know, there are times when you react a certain way or you do certain things because you're selfish, because we're all selfish at her, you know, like, that's just human nature.
We're also selfless, but
well, yes,
it's like a gamble. It's like a not gamble. It's like balance.
Yeah, it's a balance.
This book really does go into how things that happen to you in your childhood end up really like affecting you as an adult, and I think that's actually one of the things I really appreciate about this story, because I feel like I haven't read enough books, at least, where that's really in like a elemental theme for throughout the whole story. Like, some authors tend to choose one thing, like one facet, this huge event that happened in childhood that will define you forever as an adult. And I actually don't find that really realistic, because people change all the time. It's like, sometimes something in your 20s, something when you're in your 20s, maybe something when you're happened to you when you're 17 will really define you. But when you're like in your 30s, eventually, like, maybe something in your 20s will really define you. Like some, like, in terms of like memory and how it works, I feel like this story itself just sort of got its point across really well for me. It's like this idea that Andrea, is ever revolving, regardless of how miserable she really is doing it. And she does talk a lot about how much it hurt her to have her mom neglect her, having random strangers over to her house after the disentanglement and the death of her father, and how just in general,
creepy parties.
And the creepy like fundraising parties that her mother had to host because they couldn't pay their bills. And so I feel like a lot of those elements of that, her poor but, you know, socially active background, socially activist background. Also, like, her brother being the oldest and her being the youngest, given the nature of being the youngest, sometimes you're neglected. Being the girl, you know, and being in New York City in that sort of status really did eventually help her make the decision when she was older of wanting this more stable job, even though she was miserable, kind of dealing with it, at least from her point of view. The fact that she was looking so much for a mother figure, or even a father figure, really, when she was older, and that actually led to her abandoning her artistic career, because of the fact that she couldn't find that in the one the first person who took some interest in her in the art world. And I think that actually was, I thought that was interesting that like the author chose to drop that arc of the story that quickly like this.
Yeah.
And at first I was a little jarred. I was like, well, I thought like she, like in the beginning the story starts off with her saying, oh, I draw the Empire State Building a lot, and like being an artist was kind of the focus. But that's when I, after reading that piece, I was like, oh yeah, that is true. It's like sometimes you just sort of move on from things, and that's part of being a grown-up.
Yeah.
Like kids can tend to get like more stuck on certain issues, as you definitely see on a lot of like YA coming-of-age novels. Sometimes it's like this bully did this one thing to me and then we're done, like the story just ends right there. I mean, I see that a lot with like the Chocolate War and like even if you read sci-fi stories like The Giver, it's I think it's a lot like that. It's like this one thing, this one event that sort of gets like blown up, rightfully so. But I think it just in general, like teenagers tend to be more dramatic anyway. So like I feel like the fact that this book itself, despite of all the sex and the drugs involved, it wasn't as hormonally driven. And her negativity. It wasn't as hormonally driven. I would say that, like I'm talking about this book like it's a living thing, which I guess is what I got from it. Okay. So yeah, I thought this book was worth reading just so you could have like something to talk about. It's like one of those discussion books. You don't need to like it to talk about it.
Yeah, that's true because I didn't like it.
Yeah, but we wouldn't necessarily say anything that I brought up about wasn't in the book or wasn't even explored, right?
Right. But one thing I would say is that I do appreciate how she went and kind of discussed like different points of aspects of what, you know, how it changed her future or like, you know, her current situation, etc. So I really appreciate those little stories. I just didn't really like the overall book. I feel like this was misleading to me because it was not portrayed as a short story novel, and I picked it, and I hate short stories. So I was just like, reading it, and I was like, That was my expression the entire time. Well, it was a struggle for me.
So sorry. So for me, I actually think this is a book worth picking up maybe a little bit later on too, like once we actually like finish our 30s. We'll be like, let's give this book another try. So maybe not you, but like it's one of those things where like I feel like this is one of those stories that if at different age ranges you'll feel different things about it. So that's why I wouldn't say this is not a good read or even a good writing piece. I feel like the author did a really great job in terms of her style, her approach, and her topics. Like she definitely covered all of them, regardless of like how she delivered it. Yeah. It got done, and it got done well, in my opinion. Just because I feel like this is a book that anyone can read and have an actual say in it. Overall, like I would recommend this book, and part of the reason that she's allowed to do that, by the way, is because they're short stories. Because if it was just like a novel form, she would not be able to skip from 20s.
Well, yeah, of course.
So that's one plus side of reading a short story collection.
But like you don't like from like the synopsis, you wouldn't have thought this would have been a short story when you picked it up.
Okay,
so
I agree.
because she was just like, oh, who is Andrea Byrne, and it talks about how she is a 39-year-old single child-free woman who's like defies convention as she seeks connection, and then you see this blurb about this whole book, but when you open it you're like, wait, they jumped so much and they're basically short stories. Anyways,
it's alright, I'm fine.
It is what it is. So yes, I struggled a lot to read this book. It took me like a really long time to finish it.
Send her virtual hugs.
But it's whatever.
It's whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, overall that was our evaluation of the book All Grown Up by Jamie Attenberg. And so yeah, if you like or want to have more to say about the story, please comment down below or like our video. If you want to continue and support us as well as find out new videos each week, please subscribe to us.
And follows us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We just made Instagram, so check that out.
Oh, great. So thank you guys for your time, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.